What is right? What is wrong? People believe there is a clear boundary that separates the two. But in reality, that boundary is nothing more than an illusion created by society. When you stand in a crowd, trusting in what they believe and doing what they do, you feel normal. Yet if one day you step out of that circle, you may find yourself labeled as the odd one out. We often assume that following the crowd is right and going against it is wrong. But what if that very crowd was already off course from the start? If the whole world believes that what is wrong is right, then you become a madman for daring to prove otherwise. There is a young man named A who was born in a slum, a place where from childhood everyone is taught the art of pickpocketing, stealing, and robbing just to survive. In that world, those with clean hands are not admired but regarded as fools. His entire family believes that survival has only one path: robbery. They do not see themselves as criminals. They simply view it as the natural law, the big fish swallowing the little fish, the strong taking from the weak. But A refused to accept that fate. He wanted to study, to become a teacher, to leave that dark place behind and live a different life. Yet, in his family's eyes, he was abnormal, a child who goes to school instead of learning the ways of thievery, a son who aspires to be a teacher rather than a thief. His family laughed at him, calling his ideas cheap and unrealistic. They told him that there was no room for dreams in this world, only space for those ruthless enough to grab what they wanted. So, is it the one with sound thinking? Or is it his family who truly lives correctly? From the perspective of conventional society, clearly A is upright, a person of noble ideals. But if we consider the slum where he grew up, a place where survival trumps morality, then A becomes the madman. In a world where robbery is the norm, wanting to become a teacher is extraordinary. If everyone in society thinks a certain way, can someone who dares to think differently be wrong? Right and wrong are no longer determined by pure logic but by the consensus of the crowd. That is why people cling to the majority to console themselves that they are on the right path. But if one day that majority crumbles, will their faith still hold? People always assume that the law is the highest standard to judge right from wrong. But what happens when even the law becomes unreliable? History has shown us that there were times when slavery was legal and racial segregation was enshrined in law. There are nations where murder is deemed a crime. Yet there have also been periods when killing was not only accepted but required. When a government wields enough power, it can redefine every value to serve its own interests. We believe that murder is wrong. But if you live in a society where killing is ordinary, does that belief still stand? The real question is not, is this right? But, who has the authority to decide? Consider the wars we know. The victors are always painted as just, while the defeated are branded as villains. But if the outcome were reversed, would history be written the same way? When you read a history book, are you reading the truth, or merely a version penned by the winners? And if even history can be distorted, then what remains absolute? A might be seen as a righteous person in our eyes, but in his family's eyes, he is the madman. You might be considered virtuous in one society, yet in another, you could be labeled as misguided. When everything is relative, how can you be sure you are truly right? If you were born into a world where everyone believes in a lie, could you recognize it as such? Or would you also come to accept it as undeniable truth? In the end, it isn't a matter of whether something is right or wrong. It is about whether you dare to take responsibility for your choices. When you choose a path, there will always be those who say you're wrong, those who label you as insane. When you stand before a mirror, the person looking back at you is not your family, not society, not the world out there, it is you. Can you honestly say that you have lived true to what you believe? If you can, then even if the whole world sees you as abnormal, it no longer matters. Sometimes, to be right, you must have the courage to stand alone. This video ends here. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. If you liked it, please subscribe to the channel and like and share the video.